The following document was found on March 22nd, 2024. Recorded by Head of EHE Research, Amanda Parks, May 5th, 2024. Dearest sister, Ardonia is as beautiful as ever, even here in the cold of the north. The borealis here is called Shimmerfrost, and it is a sight to behold. It glows all the colors of the 5 clans in each radiant ray. If only it glowed every night, but then I'd never get any sleep, so perhaps it's better it does not. However, I do not write to you to express my wonder at nature, but to tell you of one of my wards, one Lucidius Voltaris. Included with this letter is a drawing of him as he is currently, though I have been watching him for most of his life. As all Voltaris, Lucidius has lived a life filled with fear and grief. He was so very young when he lost his family. His parents, Belmer and Moira Voltaris, were wanderers, having left their growing camp in the hopes of taking some of the strain off supplies. I cannot say whether this was a mistake on their part or not. I followed them for a few months, the sweet love they held for each other a joy to witness. Moira was fierce in everything she did. She loved fiercely. She fought fiercely. She created fiercely. If not for her equally fierce kindness, I would have been quite intimidated by her. She was also an exceptional herbalist, her remedies on par with some potions. She couldn't see very well, therefore she found all her herbs through scent alone. Did you know Ardoni can smell poison? Belmer was a jovial fellow, always ready with a smile and quick wit. He hummed to the tune of his own heart and encouraged others to do the same. He was also frightfully observant. I am certain he knew I was there, even though my form was hidden. He would stare at me as if he could see me in full, and yet he never made mention of me to Moira. I would eventually leave them to see to my other wards and handle that issue in Mandaria. I will not explain further. When next I saw them, Lucidius had already been sung into being and was well into his 6th year. He was a small, quiet child, far quieter than even other Voltaris children. He could speak quite well for his age, but he simply preferred the quiet. I used to hear him humming, sometimes with his father, sometimes just to himself. It was adorable. I missed that sweet sound. He has the same observant nature as his father, though not at the same level quite yet, even now. He hasn't noticed me. I'm not certain why I want him to. His parents adored him, and he them in turn. They were as attentive to his needs as they could be with their limited resources. But as there were only 3 of them, and with Moira's ability in finding rare sought-after herbs to sell, they were able to spend more on frivolous items than the average Voltaris. It wasn't much, a sketch pad with pencils, candy nuts, and yarn. Lucidius' most prized possession is a plush cat his mother made him. He keeps it in his inventory to this day, worn as it is. Tyria, what I must tell you next is only one of the many injustices brought against this clan, but it is no less tragic. When Lucidius was 12 years old, his little sister was brought into this world. I could never tell if the girl was albino or not. True, her skin and hair were snow white, but her markings and eyes were the palest blue. I know there are other causes for the loss of pigmentation, but that wouldn't explain the blue. Because of her odd, ethereal appearance, her parents named her Nymph. Lucidius was thrilled to be a big brother, eager to help his parents care for her. He spoke to her constantly, about anything and everything. I've never heard him speak that much sense. Moira and Belmer, being wanderers, never stayed in one place for more than 2 months at a time. This kept the small family safe, and they were content, for they had each other. Then the hunters found them. Having business in the Nether, I was not present for the attack, else I would have prevented it. I only heard the story from an owl who witnessed the events. They were outnumbered, 2 against 7. While Lucidius fled with Nymph, his parents stood their ground to guard his retreat. The 2 were formidable warriors, and fueled on by parental rage, they slew 3 of their attackers and greatly injured 2 others before being felled, giving their son valuable time to get away. The remaining hunters hounded the boy well into the next morning. They went so far into the Barrier Mountains, they came upon a larger Voltaris camp. Furious at the sight of one of their children so haggard, the hunters stood no chance against their vicious onslaught. After such a long, hard sprint, Lucidius slept for 3 days once he was safe. But the tragedy was not yet over. The Voltaris have an internal fire, one that warms them even in the midst of coldest winter. They are born with it. Nymph was not. Despite every effort to keep her warm, the long, freezing run took its toll on her frail little body, and she passed while Lucidius slept. This shattered him, everyone he knew and loved, gone in a matter of days. Lucidius withdrew him to himself, becoming anxious and skittish. He stopped speaking, only interacting with his caretaker. He might have stopped eating if not for his caretaker's persistence. It's always heartbreaking to see one so young given to despair, especially when there is nothing you yourself can do. Eventually, Lucidius's new camp would come to absorb the remnants of a smaller one, and it was there that he would meet Zenaida. Zenaida is another one of my wards, and is what I would call an aggressive optimist. Despite the loss of his own parents and most of his camp, he refused to let that break him, choosing to live life to the fullest in honor of the dead. As soon as he saw Lucidius's listless form sat by the fire, he immediately decided they would be friends. Lucidius had never met another boy so close in age to himself before, and was polarized by Zenaida's passion. It took a bit, what with Lucidius's skittishness and Zenaida's impatience, but they did eventually form a very deep bond, one I do not truly understand. I am certain they would die for the other. In terms of personality, Lucidius is rather introverted, as you can probably tell by now. He's quite anxious and prefers not to talk if he doesn't have to, especially if he doesn't know someone too well. He's very patient. I've seen him lay in wait for hours while hunting, still and silent as stone. I wouldn't call him manipulative, at least not intentionally. Not fully, anyway. He merely fears losing those he cares for, and is not above using his tears to keep them alive. He does have a bit of a mean streak, one that is seldom seen, but when pushed, even Tigran fears him. One of many reasons they're friends. Zenaida gives him confidence, Tigran gives him aggression. What a trio. He's smart. Scary smart. He'd probably have Tigran's position if not for the anxiety. Tigran does frequently ask Lucidius for advice, or his opinion on matters. Lucidius fights with a sword, though he seems more comfortable with hand-to-hand. His song, Agroshock, is certainly suited for it. Agroshock itself is an impressive song. When Lucidius is in control of himself, it is contained to his hands, calling to mind a taser, though far more dangerous. When he is filled with fury, or within the throes of sorrow, it becomes lightning, arcing around him, going so far as to reach the sky. This isn't how Agroshock usually works. The hand bit is supposed to be its only visible function. It isn't even really like aggro lightning, which is one concentrated strike. I don't know how he's done this. Curse my restless spirit. I need to make more frequent visits. Lucidius is fiercely loyal to his clan, and those willing to earn his trust, which is a harder task than some might think. I wouldn't be surprised that if certain people were to meet him, they might assume that, with his nervous nature and demure presentation, simply offering him safety and comfort would turn him to their side. But he isn't fickle, and would rather die than betray the Voltaris. Bother, I'm near out of paper. Oh well. I hope this made sense, Ty. I fear this isn't very coherent. Do write me back. I miss your letters. I hope to see you and Mother at the next gathering. All my love, Grancellis.